and people are using this to make money. They're using naked fraud as seen in Minnesota. And there's a whole bunch of other ways, like in California, how they're using an unending taxpayer supported infrastructure, trains to nowhere, high-speed rail, all sorts of projects that people pay for, maybe even special extra taxes to get this project done, but those monies are never used for that project. The project never gets done. It's just bilking taxpayers. And the money is used by people in Somalia or Al-Shabaab or other ways that the money is taken from taxpayers and then dispersed around the world. USAID is another way. And so it's very interesting. I think that there's a lot of overlap and bleed. I've got some comparisons today to other states and their oversight. In Canada, at least at the provincial level, I used to work for a company that was overseen by a ministry in Canada, the Ministry for Family and Children. And the ministry would come regularly to my workplace to audit it and to make sure the policies were being adhered to and to interview the clients and the families and all sorts of other stuff, tour the facility, all sorts of stuff. So I don't necessarily think, when I'm showing this to you, that it's an apples to apples comparison. I'm just saying that I think that this kind of fraud is rampant everywhere and there's loopholes that are being exploited. And we, as taxpayers, are holding the bag, just like the Minnesotan taxpayers have been screwed the last few years. And I think a lot's going to come out. A lot's already come out. I've got $100 million in fraud in this one video, and it's wild, absolutely wild. So we're going to look at that today. Canadian newspapers are running cover for a collapsing healthcare system. So a 44-year-old man died in an Edmonton hospital, and they're saying that he was provided care, and it seems like he was not provided care. And this is actually going to be a big deal. People are very upset about this. So we'll see how this all comes out and comes to fruition. Synthetic eggs. Jeff Bezos is making synthetic eggs. Yes, apparently. Gross. And there are places in the United States, Texas is one of them, that is banning these synthetic eggs. I don't want to eat synthetic eggs. I want to eat regular eggs. I can't imagine the health issues with synthetic eggs. I'll just have regular eggs. Can we just have regular eggs, please? And we've got a short squeeze on silver. We're going to talk about that early in the show today because I was looking, I thought, holy cow, was I misled on this silver story? No, I was just streets ahead. The stories are coming out now and people are saying there's real risk, but the way they're going to do it is basically say paper silver is silver. Don't worry about it. That's how they had special financial rules that were introduced during the local bank. There were some local banks that started collapsing in 2023 and they used some special liquidity rules to allow that to everything's fine. We don't need to have contagion in this. So they're going to try and contain this. But I think that, sorry, it's cold in my studio today, so I've got my heater going, so apologies about that. But they're going to try and contain this, but I don't know that this can be contained because it means that that fundamentally the market's insolvent. So, and those aren't my words. I'm not a money guy, but that's what the money guy says, and I'll show you that part of the video. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to start with the fraud in Minnesota, and then we're going to get to the silver squeeze. Although it could have done silvers first as well. Anyway, lots to get to. Let's get to it. Wall Street Mav says, Why are white Democrats in Minnesota totally fine with their state being looted by Tim Walz and his Somali partners? I originally thought that said pirates, so his Somali pirates, and I thought that's brave, and then I reread it and I thought, missed opportunity. Anyway, where are the protests? Where are the demands for Tim Walz to resign? Why aren't Minnesota Democrats in Congress and the state legislature demanding action? Why aren't reporters sticking microphones in their faces and demanding answers? So it's interesting. Where are these people? People saying, I was totally unaware of all of this fraud. Are they all in on it? Is everybody in the government in on this fraud? Is that why the fraud is so massive? And they're happy with $8 billion. So if we can continue stealing $8 billion a year, we're going to be happy with that and everything's going to be fine. It seems crazy, right? Wall Street Mav continues. Has there been any comment from the FBI or the Department of Justice about a criminal investigation? And are we going to get tweets from politicians and videos online from Nick Shirley? Why isn't the FBI in Minnesota with crime scene tape at state agencies? Yeah, great question. I didn't mean to close that. Jerry says 23-year-old YouTuber in a hoodie just did more in a day to expose massive Somali Democrat fraud than Minnesota media, CNN, New York Times, Department of Justice, FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and the entire cast of 60 Minutes combined. This is real journalism. Amazing work. So this is a 42 minutes. I watched this yesterday. They get chased around by Somalis. Their car gets followed from place to place by people who are upset that they're investigating the scam. He goes up to daycares, because how they're doing it in Minnesota is they claim the daycare is for autistic kids, or they claim that they have 100 odd kids and they claim state benefits for looking after those kids. The state gives them money. The state never shows up to investigate. The state never shows up to tour the agency or anything like that. And so everybody's looking past it. And he shows up, and most of the daycares don't look like daycares from the outside. Usually daycares have a place for the kids to play, toys, things like that. They look like daycares. A lot of them don't look like daycares. Blacked out windows, no windows at all. The doors are locked, but it says they're open. The signs are spelled wrong. The learning center was Leering Center. So they forgot the end. They spelled learning wrong. Unbelievable stuff. This kid goes around with another guy, and they're just asking, where are the kids? Where are the kids? And people get mad. There's one guy at the end, and he's yelling at them. He's like, you have to leave. This is private property. You're not allowed to be here. And he said, okay, well, yeah, I'm just asking though, where are the kids? Do you work here? And he's like, the guy who's at this guy, it's this guy. He's like, you can't be here. Here, I'll play it because it's absolutely wild. I don't know if it's going to let me play it.
I will sue you. You don't have any permission. We have nothing to do with this. You understand?
Then are there
So leave. Please leave.
Are there children here?
Please leave.
Where are the children? $2.6 million for a daycare center.
You ask whoever you think is doing that. You don't know what you're talking about. So leave. Leave.
Tell us what's happening here then.
I said leave.
We're wondering what's happening.
We are not a child care. We are nothing to do with it. We're common people walking. And
Yes.
you are.
We're not accusing you. We're asking where the children are at.
Don't ask me anything.
We're not accusing you. We're asking the daycare centers.
I am not going to answer. You have.
Where are the children at?
Leave. Leave.
We just want to know where are the children.
Who you work for?
My name's Nick Shirley.
Who do you work for?
I work for myself, Nick Shirley.
Okay, what are you recording?
We're wondering where are the children? $2.66 million for
You're not talking to
the
the
Minnesota
right person.
Child Care Center.
You're not talking to the right person.
Are there children that come here? Answer
You're
the
not
question.
talking
Are
to
there
the right
children?
person. Leave.
There's no children inside this
You
building.
don't know who you're talking to. Leave.
That's just a simple question. Where are the children at? David.
And they go to a bunch of different sites. This is later in the thing, but it's so crazy. And he says at the end of the video, we uncovered $100 million worth of fraud. They went through a building that had 24 fraudulent medical things, medical insurance providers. And they were asking for rates. So these guys went to the building. There's 24 listed. It said 24 medical insurance providers. So he goes in and he starts trying to enter the places. He said, this is a one-stop shop. I could come in here, I could get lots of rates, so I'm going to go and see how many rates I can get. He couldn't get any rates, and then they called the police to get him out of there because he was harassing people. He's like, I've tried to get rates. You guys, what are you talking about? He'd show up to the daycares, and the daycares, again, wouldn't be open, blacked out windows. He'd try and sign his son up, Joey, right, little Joey, and nobody had paperwork. Nobody had managers. It's not like one daycare had managers. Actually, one daycare out of everybody he saw in the whole video had the paperwork and could take that step. Everybody else, they just got hostile with him, slammed the door on him if anybody was there at all. So absolutely unbelievable fraud. And nobody's talking about it, as this guy highlights. CNN, New York Times, Department of Justice, Homeland Security, nobody, right? Where's Vivek Ramaswamy? No, not Vivek. Where's Kash Patel, man? Where's Pam Bondi? Where's all these people who are supposed to be taking this stuff seriously? They know about this? If they know about this, why is Tim Walz still free? It doesn't seem like, why is he still in charge of the state? It seems crazy, the governor, right? Again, good question. Why isn't anybody else asked about this? Are they all in on it? C3 says, sent undercover journalists to Minnesota to investigate and expose Somali fraud. The Associated Press, no. PBS, nope. Fox News, nope. NPR, nope. Wall Street Journal, nope. CNN, nope. Washington Post, nope. Reuters, nope. MSNBC, nope. Nobody else. Nick Shirley, right? Joey Shirley was a little daycare boy who wanted to go to daycare, and Joey Shirley couldn't go to daycare because nobody would have the paperwork. But Nick Shirley showed up to do the job of all of these people, and none of these people have done anything. So the legacy media is the enemy of the people. Yeah, we're being managed. We're not being informed. We're being managed. And people doing this kind of work, this is the learning center. This is the Leering Center. It's funny, but it's so crazy because it's so in your face. Like, this is so blatant. This is them teabagging you in Halo, right? Like, they headshotted you and now they're teabagging you before you can respawn.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said Leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing, and like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis.
So I don't think our fraud is this blatant, except that it kind of is. How much money do we send to Ukraine? How much money do we send to First Nations? What do we get from those things? What do the First Nations get from those things? Fresh water? Oh, like, come on, right? Really? And so we've got all this money that we're being told, oh yeah, we need to give this money to these people to do good for reasons. The fraud is there in Canada, not in daycares with government kickbacks necessarily. I think the kickbacks are structured differently in Canada too, but I think that they're there, right? So it's concerning stuff. Just Mindy says, I ran an early learning center at daycare in Orlando, Florida in 2003 to 2004, and we received state and federal dollars to care for children. Someone from the state of Florida came unannounced to my center every month to check on my facility, check vaccination records, ensure the facility, check vaccination records. It's so sinister. It's so sinister. They're not there checking on kids' welfare. No. They're making sure the kids are vaccinated, which could be construed as the same thing, I guess. Ensure the facility was safe and my attendance records matched who was actually there that day. For this to happen, the government of Minnesota was willfully overlooking the fraud. People need to go to jail. Yes. And I wanted to make sure that people understand that there are certain checks and balances in Canada as well that look like this, which is why the fraud is moved to a different place in the chain, in my opinion. So here is C3 again says, Ilhan Omar's net worth grew by 3,500% in a single year, $205,000 to $30 million. America is being robbed. Everybody's being robbed, C3. Everybody. It's not just America. Ultra Mega Kevin says Jacob Frey is the mayor of Minneapolis, the infamous one who knelt during the George Floyd riots. This is the guy who relocated to the state, joined a law firm focused on racism and discrimination cases, spent just 2 years there, and then suddenly got elected as mayor. I'm not sure about the legality of that path, but we've recently seen judges appointed without even holding law degrees. How much did the Somali community contribute to this foreign Khazarian candidate? I don't know if he's actually Khazarian. And is he entangled in their schemes? I wouldn't trust the incompetent governor's office to look into this, and we certainly can't rely on the FBI either. Since Jacob Frey is one of the protected crooks, they'd never disclose damaging info on him, just like they buried details about the chosen insiders who siphoned tens of billions from U.S. aid. So we do have examples of other government agencies being built in the United States for lots and lots of money going to foreign actors, foreign people who don't want the best for the United States. And like, this is not just a one-off. This may sound crazy until you start looking at the examples of people and situations where this exact thing has happened over and over again. So, my gosh. Yeah, governments engage in all this kind of stuff, and we're not supposed to ask questions. And now our government is trying to pass speech laws to make sure that if you do ask questions in an effective way, they can say that's hateful misinformation and send you to the gulag. Here's Yuri. I'm not sure how to say that. It says, nothing to see here, just the Podesta group was hired by the Somalian government in 2013. We have it all. So John Podesta has close ties to the Clinton machine. John Podesta was Clinton's chief of staff. And there's all sorts of other Podesta history, especially surrounding Pizzagate, if you ever paid any attention to that kind of stuff. But also the Podesta group also includes John Podesta's brother, and I can't remember his name, but they run political influence. And so the Somalians having a deal with the Podesta group is notable, and I wonder how deep this goes. I wonder how wide this net is. It seems pretty crazy. It seems pretty broad. Let's talk about silver and talk about the silver squeeze going on. It seems like a short squeeze, says somebody in my tabs here, and it's plausible. Edward says today's 10% move in silver is a 4 to 5 sigma event. A 3.8 sigma move is the chance that you personally get hit by lightning at least once in your lifetime, so not likely. You're witnessing history today, so the move of silver up to 79.67 US dollars in COMEX, and it's trading over 80 in Beijing. It's higher in Beijing, like the price of silver is higher in Beijing than it is in the COMEX in the U.S. markets. And so that's interesting to note. Here's this guy talking about how the markets are our markets are insolvent. And so that's interesting. He says that in the first minute. This is 45 minutes. We don't have 45 minutes. So this is just a taste. If you want to watch the whole video, the link should be in the description. Here we go.
It is officially over. For years, we have sat here and speculated. We have looked at the charts. We have looked at the open interest, and we have guessed. We have said, one day the banks will break. We have said, one day the naked shorts will get caught offside so badly that the entire financial system will have to bend the knee. We have hypothesized that the bullion banks are leveraged to the hilt, playing a dangerous game of fractional reserve paper trading against a physical asset that is running out. But up until this morning, that was just a theory. It was a mathematical probability, sure, but we didn't have the smoking gun. We didn't have the body. Well, stop guessing. Stop speculating. Because that day is today. The body has been found. Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here, while you were glued to your screens watching the spot price of silver hit $77.16, while you were celebrating the breakout and calculating your net worth, something much more important, much darker, and much more terrifying was happening in the plumbing of the global financial system. Something that the mainstream media is terrified to report because it proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that the banking system is insolvent. We just received the official data from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York regarding their overnight reverse repurchase agreements, the repo facility, for this morning, Friday, December 26th. And the number that just flashed across the terminal is not a typo. It is not an error. It is a confession. $17,251 million. In a single morning, in the quiet hours just after the Christmas holiday, the too big to fail banks tapped the Federal Reserve's emergency liquidity window for over $17 billion in cash. Now, you need to understand what this means. You need to understand what the repo market actually is. This is not the window.
So we'll just leave it there for now. But that seems bad. Shim Jelly Jim says, breaking, is epic short squeeze on silver imploding the banks. So this is the real where the rubber hits the road. Most people aren't calculating their net worth in silver after the doubling or more than doubling of the value of the asset, right? Most people aren't dripping in silver today. And so they're interested in how does this impact the banks? How does this impact, everything else? And I said on Christmas Day, I think this is akin to or something similar to the end of Fight Club, where Tyler's just shot himself in the face, and the banks are imploding in front of him, and he says to Marla, "Everything's going to be fine. Everything's just going to be great. Everything's going to be good. I feel good." And she kind of stands there, and they watch everything, blow up in front of them. I think that's about where we're at right now, and people are realizing that things have blown up. That's where we're at right now. And so we'll continue on with this. The move you've witnessed, a roughly 9% surge in 48 hours to a record high of 79.11 or 0.11 per ounce on December 26, 25 is indeed highly unusual and widely recognized by analysts as a short squeeze. Historically, the only true precedent for such concentrated rapid movement was the 1979 to 1980 Hunt brothers cornering of the market. Is this a short squeeze? Yes, multiple market indicators confirm this is a classic short squeeze or classic squeeze. Liquidity evaporation, silver lease rates, the cost to borrow physical metal reportedly hit 200% in late 2025, a level that signals a complete lack of available physical silver to cover paper short positions. Forced buying as prices break new all-time highs. Institutions with short positions are forced to buy silver at any price to meet margin calls, which perversely drives the price even higher. COMEX pressure. Analysts speculate that recent COMEX technical outages may have been unofficial interventions to, quote, bail out traders who would otherwise have to deliver hundreds of millions of ounces that they do not possess. Where is the Fed on this? The Federal Reserve has not announced a specific bailout. However, the broader context of Fed policy in 25 has inadvertently fueled this fire. Stealth quantitative easing. Some analysts, including Peter Schiff, claim the Fed has launched a reserve management program worth $40 billion per month to stabilize the bond market, which investors are interpreting as stealth quantitative easing. Monetary tailwinds. The Fed cut interest rates in late 25, which lowered the opportunity cost of holding non-yielding assets like silver and weakened the dollar, accelerating the rally. Potential banking crisis. While no major bank has failed yet, there is growing concern that unrealized losses on silver shorts and bonds could trigger a crisis larger than 2008. Risk to major banks. While rumors about JP Morgan or others seeking immediate bailouts are currently speculative, the financial strain is real. In 2025, silver has surged over 160% year to date. If these institutions are forced to close their massive short positions, the resulting losses would be in the billions, potentially requiring the Fed to step in with emergency liquidity tools similar to those used in the 2023 regional banking crisis. I was referencing that off the top. Let's focus on JP Morgan. Based on historical precedents and current 2025 market conditions, the scenario of a Federal Reserve bailout for banks caught in a silver short squeeze would likely mirror the 2008 and 23 interventions rather than a 1980s style market break. One likelihood and form of a Fed bailout. History shows the Fed rarely bails out a bank's specific trade losses directly. Instead, it provides systemic liquidity. Historical precedent. In 2008 and 2023, the Fed used programs like TARP and the Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP, to let banks swap distressed assets for par value in cash. The 2025 context. On October 16th, 25, the Fed quietly injected $8.35 billion into the banking system through repo operations. If silver short caused a liquidity crisis, the Fed would likely expand those backdoor repo injections to prevent a bank failure, effectively socializing the losses through the currency rather than letting a major institution collapse. Impact on inflation and the hyperinflation risk. Providing liquidity to banks to cover short losses is fundamentally inflationary because it increases the monetary supply or the money supply without increasing goods or services. The debt spiral. In 2025, concerns over U.S. debt to GDP ratio have already weakened the dollar by 12%. A massive intervention to save banks from a silver squeeze would be viewed as a monetary debasement and potentially accelerate a transition from persistent inflation to disorderly currency slide. And maybe that's the excuse to trigger central bank digital currencies. But with all these tools, we're basically in a situation where they have so many tools to intervene anyway that if something did break, you would just get a federal intervention that says, listen, the market system is more important than you're missing silver. Here's some paper silver and just grin and bear it until we mine it out or whatever. And maybe your asset's not worth as much, then we'll just buy it off you. And we're not going to ask for the silver. We know we're not. And so there's going to be a way to force people to accept things until there isn't any more. Okay? Wall Street Mav says silver prices continue soaring on the global supply stress. Imagine owning 5,000 ounces of silver on paper, COMEX 1 futures contract, and finding out the vault is empty. Usually nobody worries about the supply in the vaults. Paper contracts trading daily represent 300 times more trading of silver metal than there is actual silver in the vaults of the exchanges. Normally, it doesn't matter because less than 1% of futures contracts take delivery of actual metal. However, now there's a real supply issue. The silver market has been in deficit for over 5 years, meaning that demand for real silver from industry exceeds all of the mined silver around the world. Industry has been consuming the above-ground silver for the vaults, or from the vaults. COMEX, London, and Shanghai inventories are down well below normal levels. Industrial users, Samsung, are taking delivery, and the exchanges are not able to obtain enough from the silver refineries to maintain their normal amounts in the exchange vaults. Now, China has announced starting January 1st, 26, there will be tight export controls on silver. China is the number 2 producer globally of mined silver and likely the number 1 country for refining, which means lots of raw ore from other countries gets shipped to China, and now it cannot be easily exported. Silver is critical for solar panels, EVs, electronics, lots of other stuff. Silver is the best element on the periodic table for conducting electricity. There is no substitute for many products. In the paper silver market, there are 300 times more ounces traded than there exists for silver in the vaults. Who isn't going to get the silver when the vaults are empty? That's when the future market breaks, and then only the physical market matters. There is a real supply crunch happening for silver metal. It will become very volatile. There will be massive moves both up and down during this process, but the long-term trend is higher because global demand exceeds global supply. Once the above-ground reserves are gone, then someone is not getting their silver, so the only way to fix that is price going up to see who wants it bad enough. We are already seeing companies like Samsung making deals with silver miners to buy all of their supply for years into the future. So things are changing fast, it seems, and that's pretty wild. We're already at 26 minutes. Holy cow. Based on today's price, silver is likely to gap up Sunday night, probably into the mid-80s, reach the mid-90s by Sunday. Monday's session could easily exceed 100, and if that happens, I would expect a $10 to $15 gap up Tuesday, taking silver to 125 an ounce next week, earlier than I expected. So are we riding this silver rocket to the moon? Can you get, like, you miss Bitcoin, you miss silver? Darn. There's all sorts of signs, right? Go buy silver. But now, I mean, it's very expensive. Damn. But I think silver is probably worth $200 an ounce, right? I think probably that's where the actual price of silver is. And somebody was saying that if the ratio was held that between silver and gold from the 1980s, silver should be up somewhere around $320. I think that's the number I saw. But that was based on a cheaper price of gold, so I don't know where it should actually be. So apologies about that. Real Ben says, oh, this is just the price of inflation. I'm going to show you the 1960s and the 1990s. And the price of inflation is stealing the value, the buying power of our dollar. And because it's doing that, it's invisible. People don't understand it. And so because people don't understand it, they think it's bad man Trump or tariffs or something like that. But it's not. It's our government policy. Why is our government policy to add 2%, to reduce our buying power by 2% every year? The stated reason is to encourage people to buy now because, in 5 years it'll be more expensive. And that's supposed to stimulate the economy. But I think that's a poor excuse. And we've lost a lot of buying power over the last 50, 60 years. Just look at this cart for $50.
1960, this is what a homemaker might have worn while shopping at the supermarket. For $50, her shopping cart included rib roast of beef, hamburger, pork chops, bacon, chicken, tuna fish, a ham, a turkey, all kinds of fruits and vegetables, including 1 head of lettuce, 2 loaves of bread, and 5 pounds of coffee. In 1960, you could get a house that looked like this one for about $17,000. You might also have had...
The house is 3-bedroom, looks like 3-bedroom upstairs, and 2-car garage. Looks like 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. Maybe no basement, but it looks quite nice.
At a top-of-the-line Ford Thunderbird, like the one in this old TV commercial, for $3,700. Things changed by 1970.
Okay, we're going to jump ahead to 1990.
Remember, 1 head of lettuce, that for $50, you...
The 1990s lady is wearing a space-aged silver outfit, by the way.
For $50, you will carry from the grocery store only 1 head of lettuce, 2 loaves of bread, and 5 pounds of coffee.
That's accurate only because the coffee is so expensive. I don't think that's how $50 was dispersed in 1990 groceries.
Your $17,000 for a home will buy only a small fraction of just one room.
That's accurate in Canada. $17,000 in 1992. I don't think that you were getting a nice house for $17,000 necessarily. Maybe a shack. But this has just got a door and an outdoor drawer thing. I don't know why. But it's interesting. The buying power is being reduced, and the policy is to blame, if you ask me. With that, we've got to say goodbye to. Oh, here's the synthetic eggs. I'll do this, and then we'll say goodbye to the stream. Sudden and unexpected says Texas has officially become the first state in America to stop Jeff Bezos' synthetic egg project. I don't want to eat anything that has to do with Jeff Bezos' synthetic eggs. Like if that's the branding, oof, that's a bad mistake. This is a major win for real food. This action blocks the introduction, production, and rollout of Bezos-backed artificial egg mixtures designed. I can't wait to have Bezos eggs. Ugh. Gross. Designed in laboratories instead of laid by real hens. Texas didn't delay or review the project. The state took decisive action to keep lab-engineered egg liquids out of grocery stores, restaurants, and family kitchens. So bravo, good for them. Okay, with that, we've got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want